Hello, everybody. I want to welcome everybody today to our work life balance group. I appreciate you all making the effort to come out. What it tells me is that not only are you dealing with a little bit of stress related to the job and home life, but it also tells me, more importantly, that you want to find a way to eliminate that source of stress. So let me start by saying I'm Stranda. I'm your therapist for this particular group. I'm currently working on my master's degree in social work, and so I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to work with you all today. I want to say quickly that this is a safe space. Anything that you share is not going to be shared with others. The only other person who will hear this information is my professor. We're going to work together to try to come up with some creative solutions so that we can find a better way to manage our stress and strike a balance between home and life, personal life, and work life. Um, and then also, the new phrase that I think it's kind of cute is we listen and we don't judge. So just keep that in mind. We're listening, but we're not judging because in reality, we're all more alike than we are different. So I'm going to start by asking each of you, and it doesn't matter who goes first, each of you just to introduce yourself, just to tell me your name, and tell me what led you to the group today. Don't all jump to go first.
I'll go first. Hi,
Okay.
Linda.
Hi,
Uh,
Melinda.
Hello. So what actually motivated me to join the group is that as you can see, I'm a police officer and policing has become quite stressful. And I'm trying to find a way to balance out my home life and my work life and not carry on the stress that I deal with at work and bring it home to my family.
Gotcha. Yeah, you have a big job, a really big job that I can imagine is very stressful. Who's going to go next? Thanks for coming, Melinda.
I'm Sheree Partey, and I work at a hospital, at Children's Hospital, and that can be stressful all in itself as well, especially dealing with families with children and going to all different phases of medical conditions and stuff like that, and just trying to help keep them calm and be able to maintain my work as well. Hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a big job as well. I can't imagine you're dealing with sickness all
Yeah.
day.
Hmm.
People are not at the doctor. This is the hospital. So people are at
Exactly.
the hospital because they're sick. Thank you
Hmm.
for coming, Sheree. Who's going to go next?
My name is Sharon Lewis. I work for Latitude 36, which we do salad packaging. So I didn't realize the salad saved lives until I started working with Latitude.
Okay.
So everything, the stress comes in because that's the only focus. It's just what can we do? What can we do? We're doing things bigger. We're doing things better. We're bringing this in. We're bringing that in. So it's all about getting everything packaged and out the door. But the focus is not really on on the employees, because we really don't get holidays and things to that extent. So it's just all about everybody jumping in, figuring out how to get more for pushing out, but not the ones that's working around us.
Gotcha. So it sounds like what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a big focus on finding ways to do the job better and more efficiently. However, there's not a big focus on how to maybe maintain a good employee balance at work. So they're not so concerned about how you guys are dealing with anything, but more so how much output can we get accomplished in the course of the
Correct.
day. Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha. All right, Sharon, welcome. And then last but not least, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Tracy, and I am 58 years old. And I joined this group because I just want to know how to find balance between work, family, kids, grandkids. I work for CareXM and I'm a patient care associate. And the stress level in my job is just unbelievable because the expectations I take after hour calls for providers. So I'm getting a lot of calls regarding patients that are sick, that are in need, that are in hospice, that have been raped. So the stress level is really hard at this time, and just trying to find balance between work, kids, husband, family, friends. So I just need to join a group to just find out where can I find balance.
Gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like you got a little bit of everything that you're managing at your job. So any day the situation is different. Today it might be a rape victim. Tomorrow it might be somebody whose family is headed to hospice.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
guys have a lot on your plate, and though it might seem like it might be impossible to strike that balance, it's not. We're gonna find a way to set some small goals so that we can work towards establishing a balance. So, what I would like for you to do is I asked you each of you to take out a sheet of paper and bring a sheet of paper with you to the meeting. And so we all know the purpose of this group is to find a way to establish that balance. What you all have shared with me today is that you've got some stressful jobs. Some of you have husbands, have children, have grandchildren, have relationships. All of those things pull and tug on your time. They might not always seem like it, but each one of those things pulls a piece of you. And then somewhere left in the core of that is yourself. And what do we do for our own self care? Um, how do we get to be a priority in our own life? And sometimes we seem like that might seem impossible because the husband needs time, the children needs time, the grandkids need time, the friendships need time, the work needs time. But then what about you? You need some time too. So we're going to try to figure out how to come up with a way for each of you to start to begin to establish that time again so that your personal lives aren't drowning in the midst of the chaos of work. So I'm going to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10. I'll ask you first, Sharon, where do you rate your current work life balance, work and personal life balance, just on a scale of 1 to 10?
I probably would give it maybe a 6, maybe.
Okay. What about you, Tracy?
I would say if we're talking about currently, I would say probably an 8.
Okay. And what about you, Sheree?
I'm gonna go with a 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Melinda?
I'm gonna go with maybe a 7.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So those scores aren't as bad as it might seem. Those scores are still pretty high. So
Mm.
that's a good thing. So now I'm going to ask you if you were to think about just over the last, let's say, 5 years. So we're going to go back to 2020. And I say 2020 because everybody remembers 2020 because that
Hmm.
was the year of this awful, horrible pandemic. So if we just went back to 2020 and started there, and then we moved up to 2025, and then we're going to move even further and go 5 years forward to 2030. I'm going to ask on your piece of paper to jot down 2020, 2025, and 2030. And what we're going to do is think about over those last 5 years, 2020 to 2025, um, what was your work life and personal life balance looking like in 2020? We're going to try to just gauge what's different. So just take a few minutes and think about in 2020, how different did life look? And so, in comparison, right now in 2025, um, where you're currently at, where do you see yourself wanting to be in 5 years? Like if we could take a look into the future, which sometimes I wish we could, but if we could imagine looking 5 years ahead what we might want our lives to look like. Unfortunately, most of us probably still have to work. And so, what we would like to look a little bit different than what it currently looks like now. And so, just the purpose of this little exercise, and it's just a thinking exercise, it's just to help you visualize where you've been, where you are currently, and where you like to go, because it gives you a starting point to establishing some change. And so, I'll ask you, Sheree,
Okay.
between 20 and 25, just thinking about that 5 year span, when would you say you felt the most balanced? When did things seem like they were the most in sync?
Actually, 2020 was pretty calm for me, because it was a time where, yes, the world was a little bit different with the pandemic and everything, but you got to work from home. At that time, I was not in a relationship. Um, my mother was here. Within those 5 years, my mom passed away.
Okay.
So that tend to add a little stress to my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so I would say between 2020 to 25, there has been just some significant changes in my life
Okay.
that has been different. Um, so moving forward to 2030, my plan is for it to be a little bit more calm. That's
Okay.
the plan. I'll be being promoted in my position at work,
Okay.
um, which means I'll get more money, which that always helps with the household.
Mm-hmm.
Relationship wise, it's fine. So
Okay.
that's not a stress or anything. Um, and yeah, just trying to, my focus right now is just to get my finances together,
Okay.
and just, and just to adjust to my new life without my mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. So, in spite of all the world chaos, 2020
Hmm.
didn't look so bad.
No, it
Um,
wasn't too bad for me.
my daughter and I just yesterday were talking about 2020, and in spite of all the bad that came out of 2020, we talked about how much good stuff came out of
Yeah.
2020.
Hmm.
People established businesses, people realized they didn't
Hmm.
have to work for other people and could
Right.
still make, the amount of money that they wanted to make, and people got to work from home and
Yeah.
all those good things.
You appreciated things more now, having to deal with that.
Agreed with you. Melinda, what about you in the last 5 years, between 2020 and 2025? When would you say your life felt the most balanced or things felt the most in sync?
I think things were more imbalanced for me in 2020, although we were still experiencing the pandemic at that time. But now here, it's 2025, we have experienced a extreme decrease in the number of officers that we have working for our department due to
Okay.
a lot of retirements.
Okay.
So we're working with less officers and things have changed. The climate has changed
Hmm.
um, a lot, and that has impacted all of us, and not necessarily in a positive way. Um,
Gotcha.
so I would say that. And as far as looking forward in 2030, I'm hoping to be wrapping up my final days in law enforcement and looking
Okay.
for retirement. Yeah.
Retirement is such a beautiful word. Um, Tracy, what about you? Thinking about 2020 to 2025, when would you say that things were the most imbalanced for you?
Imbalance or balanced?
Balanced, should I say? I should have
Balance.
said in balance, but
Okay.
balanced.
I would say 2020 to me was a little stressful, but not too stressful. I wasn't working in
Hmm.
2020, so I've been out of work since 2015. But that was the year my youngest daughter, was graduating. So it
Okay.
was a little stressful trying to figure out, as a parent, what is she going to do with her life, because you want
Hmm.
them to make good decisions or try to figure out them just as well as figuring out ourselves. So I wouldn't say 2020 was as stressful to me
Okay.
as to others maybe,
Okay.
because only thing my focus was probably was just on her because she was a
Okay.
senior that year. So
Gotcha.
I really don't feel like I had any stress or balance. I felt more at peace and calm, I would say, in 2020.
Okay.
Didn't have to get out much, wasn't shopping as much.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just to me a time for reflection to just
Okay.
sit
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't that much to do.
Yeah.
So moving forward to 2025, I just feel that at this point, I wouldn't say my stress is at a 10, but I'm doing a lot more right now because setting goals and trying to, manage money financially,
Mm-hmm.
just to do better. And I'm working now, so I've been working for a year leading up to like 2025 now.
Okay.
So that's just a little bit more stressful on me because I'm worried about work and not just myself. Like I
Mm-hmm.
just, and then just helping care for my mother, who has dementia.
Okay.
So, that could, and her, she's progressed, so that can be a little stressful, but I would say my calmest was 2020. And then moving on to 2030, what I'm looking forward to
Mm-hmm.
is definitely my husband retiring,
Okay.
traveling more, um, being able to, even though we spend a lot of time together, but just spending more time, being able to travel and just taking more time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think a lot of times the self gets lost in the midst of caring
Hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
everybody. We kind of forget to care for ourselves.
Right.
What about you, Sharon?
Um, I would go with 2020 as well, just
Okay.
because even though it was a slow point as far as in our life living this thing that we call life, lifing, it was more reserved. I was working from
Mm-hmm.
home. It wasn't a lot of running around. I said, Dag, I was making less money, but I was spending less money as well
Mm-hmm.
because we were home, we were watching movies, we were cooking, we were TikToking. So it was like us regrouping, coming together, getting to know each other again, not
Mm-hmm.
just being in the fast lane, like crossing, passing each other, but just sitting here like, oh, what are we gonna do today? Da da da
Mm-hmm.
da da. And then later on, in the midst of that, was hit losing two grandmothers in the same year
Mm.
within, just
Mm-hmm.
7 months or whatever. It was a lot, but at the same time, I do say that I had the opportunity to spend time with them as well and
Mm-hmm.
doing family things. And so now we're back in this fast lane where you're just
Mm-hmm.
running, 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 running. Is it even making sense in the midst of still, going, going, going?
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at 2030, I'm looking for retirement. I'm looking for definitely traveling more,
Mm-hmm.
not having to deal with the hustle and bustle of being in meetings. Some days 3 times a day, some days 5, 6 times a
Oh
day, but
my
just
goodness.
being able to not have to be somewhere at 6:30 in the morning running reports, but actually being able to just chill, hopefully in a sunny place on the beach,
Mm-hmm.
or even if it's just at home, just being able to relax more and not always being pulled in 1,001 directions. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I will say 2020 was a time to regroup and you know, get to know each other and putting together the missing pieces that you didn't even realize that were missing pieces.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Sounds good. It sounds like when I listen to everybody, and everybody kind of felt like that in 2020, when the world shut down, they gave you a chance to regroup. I like the
Mm-hmm.
term that you used, Sharon, that you said it
Mm-hmm.
gave you a chance to regroup. Kind of came back together and things kind of, mellowed out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you weren't making as much money, but you really wasn't spending any money because you were in
Right.
the house.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
My mom told me years ago that every time you walk out your door, you're gonna spend some money. You're gonna buy a bottle of water, a can of soda, a candy bar, some
Mm-hmm.
gas. You're gonna spend
Mhm.
money every time you walk out the door. So staying in the house sometimes is not quite so bad. So just thinking about that. So here we are in 2020, 2025, and 2020 sounds like for everybody it was kind of that good, relaxed, calm time for you all. So we got to figure out how do we grasp some of what was going on in 2020 and bring it on over into 2025 so that we can reach some of these plateaus we want to get to in 2030. um, when I'm listening to you all, I'm hearing a few patterns, such as the word that each one of you kind of used was, even with Tracy, you weren't working, the other ladies were working, but it was still a calm, it was still peaceful. For Melinda, you had more help at work. So right now, that's the difference. Things are a little more chaotic, is more stuff on you guys because you have less help at work. Um, Sheree, in the midst of between then and now, you lost a parent. However, you're saying, "Hey, I lost my mom, this key person in my life, but I'm still trying to figure out how to move forward." You know, everything is stuff isn't real crazy, and I know some good things are on the horizon. So it's possible that I could kind of get back to that place of peace that I had
Right.
in 2020. Um, I think that for most of us, I'm going to just use the word peace because it sounds like that's the biggest priority.
Right.
That the scuttle and buttle of running around doing life sometimes just is draining, it's exhausting. Um, so what I'm going to ask is that just to take a quick moment to think about what's something that you think you could do today, immediately, that might help you get to that 2030 future that you kind of desire. So I know we can't retire tomorrow, unfortunately.
Right.
Our spouses can't retire tomorrow, unfortunately. But there are some little small things that we can do to start trying to line things up so that as we work towards the next 5 years, things don't have to be quite as chaotic as maybe they are today. And 5 years is far away. It's hard to think about today in 2025 what we want to see happen in 2030. So, what do you want to see happen next month? It's the month of March. What would you like to see summertime look like? Um, what is it that you want to do then that you feel too stressed to do right now? Anybody can share.
Travel.
Travel. Okay.
Hmm.
And so for you to travel right in next month, if for you to be able to travel, what do you need to do different that you're not maybe not doing right now?
Probably plan it. I would think I'm not in my mind. It's what I want to do, but
Hmm.
do I have time to sit down and plan it? No.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
would just see it's just the difference between those two.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What about anybody else?
I would say making self-care a priority.
Okay. And how do you think you go about doing that? Because we say it all the time, but then the day goes by and we still haven't done anything for ourselves.
And, piggybacking off of Tracy, just, taking the time to do it, just slowing down and making the time to do it, making it a priority.
Gotcha.
Slow down so that I can put those things in place.
Gotcha.
Mine
Okay.
is gonna be just more of the. Were you done, Melinda? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine is gonna be more of the prioritizing, like my shopping, and just because Lord knows I don't need anything. So most of my shopping is just wants. So just gonna have to buckle down on some things so that I can get some stuff paid off, and that's the main thing. just get myself on a budget. I don't know how that's going. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm gonna try it.
Okay.
Mhm.
And one thing, I'll have some resources for you guys, along those lines, that if you're trying to work on a budget, or if you're trying to make self-care a priority, just some things that you may not be thinking about on a typical basis. What about you, Sharon? What does that
Um,
look like for you?
I would say to just breathe, pace myself. The self care is everything. So I enjoy massages, things like that. So just taking, like, it's coming planning, because you think about it, you know you can do it, but then some days it just gets so crazy that it's like I end up coming home and I'll
Mhm.
just either cook or kind of just sit down and don't move. And then I think about everything else I could have done or put into play. So
Mhm.
probably just plan it, put it in action, and just make it happen. Like when I leave work, literally leave work, like leave
Mhm.
that straight behind, and not even trying to think about it, discuss it or whatever, but like leave. And I love the sun, love being outside, but I'm like, oh my God, it's cold. I'm moving
Mhm.
differently than what I would do when it was warmer, but still take advantage of being outside. It doesn't always have to be a warm day. I should be
Mhm.
able to kind of walk around or just kind of enjoy just being outside, having just that moment of me time. So
Mhm.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like everything that you guys are saying are all things that are very, very doable. It's just in the midst of the day, when sometimes things go wrong instead of right. We just keep
Mhm.
pushing those things to the side. And
Mhm.
so Tracy and Sharon both said that sometimes it's just a matter of planning. And so I want you to think about, like, if you were even at work, because we're talking about sometimes the stress of work overshadowing all the other parts of our life. Um, Sometimes planning at work, starting there, can really affect how you end up able to plan stuff at home. So, in other words, if when you wake up in the morning, if you approach your day as though, all right, I've got these things I have to accomplish today at work. What's the most important one? I'm gonna do that thing first. I'm gonna do these other two things. So now, once I get those things off my plate, even though the boss is calling me in here to a million
Mhm.
meetings, or the other colleagues are getting on my nerves, I've accomplished what I needed to accomplish today. I
Mhm.
can check something off of my list finally. Something is being checked off our list. So, the same way in your personal life, maybe you start by just making yourself a simple list. What is it that I want to accomplish this week? How do I go
Mhm.
about accomplishing that thing? And I don't owe it to anybody to explain why I want to do this thing. If it's
Mhm.
that my biggest priority this week is I want to go get a pedicure, then what do I need to do to make sure that I can accomplish that? Or I want to clean house, or I want to go out on a date with my spouse, I want to go out on a date with my kids, or whatever
Mhm.
that thing is. Start by just setting that as your goal, or setting that as your priority for the
Mhm.
week. So then, taking care of your stuff at work, that you can leave that stress at the end of the day. You don't have to worry about what didn't get accomplished, what the boss might say tomorrow because you didn't finish your task at work, or what have you. Um, then you don't have to carry that home with you. You can kind of close
Mhm.
the door to the day. And Melinda, your job is so different than
Mhm.
everybody else's. I can imagine that it's hard not to keep the job on your mind once you come home. Well, I'm thinking worst case scenario, something happens really bad to somebody. Somebody gets hurt, somebody gets shot, somebody has some major incident or major accident. That thing is going to stay on your mind. But somehow you've got to find a way to put that to the side, because now my family needs me. You need
Mhm.
yourself. And so your focus can't be that thing that happened at work. You'll have ample time to deal with that when, as soon as you get to work tomorrow, it's going to be the first thing everybody talks about. but somehow or another, you've got to be able to close the door to it when you get home. Otherwise, everybody at home is just dealing with what you're dealing with at work, and and they're missing out on you. And you're kind of missing out on yourself as well. What we're going to do is just each of you just think about today. We're going to meet again next week. So think about today. What can you do between today and next Sunday to make yourself a priority, to do something for yourself? We're not even going to deal with spouses, boyfriends, kids right now, just yourself. What can you do this week to make yourself a priority, to do something just for you, to check one of the boxes on your very long list of things that you want to do for yourself? And let's think about making it realistic. Like don't set a goal that you know is impossible to reach this week. Just something simple that you can do. And even though some of these goals are really small, as you start seeing yourself check stuff off your list, it inspires you to set the next goal. Okay, I did that. I was able to accomplish it. Now let's go on to the next thing. Okay, let's set a bigger goal. Okay, next time we're going to set an even bigger goal because now I'm showing myself that I am able to do it. I am able to check my boxes off my list. So, and if you're comfortable, I'll ask you to share what you can do this week.
You want to share right now? What's
Yep.
the plan?
Mm-hmm.
So my back bedroom, Calvin made like a closet for me. Like so but I have yet to get it together.
Okay.
So I have so many clothes just sitting in there that I need to hang up, fold up. So I need to take time. I keep saying if I can give myself an hour a day just to put towards that, I'll have it done in no time. So that's going to be my goal, to start working on that back room for the week.
So are you saying that for 2 or 3 days this week you're gonna set aside an hour to do that at least?
Yes, that's the plan.
Is 2 or 3 days too much? You want
No.
to say one day, or are you gonna just
No, I really need to do this.
okay?
So I'm gonna make an hour for 2 days. So 3 hours this week is gonna go towards that back room.
Okay,
Hmm.
that sounds like a good goal because it sounds like you love clothes, and so being able to see them spread out the way you need makes life a little bit easier. All these little things, they just
Yeah.
make life a little bit easier.
Yeah, it would make it a whole lot easier.
What
Hmm.
about you, Melinda? What are you going to do this week that will make life a little less stressful for you?
What I think I'm gonna do is, so I pay for a membership to get facials and massages.
Okay.
I very rarely take the time to do it. So every Sunday I make this things to do list, just as you said. So at the top of the list, I'm gonna put my massage at the top of the list
Okay.
and make it my business to get a massage this week.
Okay. That sounds like a wonderful goal for the
At
week,
least by Sunday.
right? That sounds like a great goal. What about you, Tracy?
So I was just thinking, what I need to do is I need to purge.
Mhm.
I still want to hold on to things that I haven't used in God only knows when, maybe 3, 4 years. If I haven't used it, then I'm not missing it. So I'm trying to learn how to just purge and simplify
Okay.
things.
I need to do that.
Also, I need a pedicure.
Okay.
It's been a minute since I had a pedicure, and when I look at those toes, I'm like, that is awful. We need to do better. So I need to set time aside to get a pedicure. And also, I want to just be able to give myself time and grace to say no when I have to say no. Just, you know, just for me, and just be like, I'm not available, but just for me, and just say no.
Okay, that's a good one.
That's a really, really, really good thing. I think that we often we won't say no, and then we do it with such a spirit of not wanting to do it or being upset and frustrated. So all these little things, they just add to our stress level. All those
Mm,
things are just like little layers. They just build on one another. And then we can't understand why we're so darn
right.
stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
So Tracy, you're saying this week you're gonna go get a pedicure.
Yes.
All right. And you're gonna start the process of purging.
Yes, definitely.
All right. And what about you, Sharon? What are you gonna do this week? What's your
Um,
goal for the week?
I need to start prepping. Initially, I would get my things ready for work the night before. I would get my lunch, prepare my lunch, prepare what I needed to make my smoothies in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I just been tired. So I can tell
Right.
you, I just take my little shower and go to bed. Then I wake up at 5:30, like, oh my God, what am I wearing? Dang.
Mm-hmm.
And then I haven't prepared for my smoothies or just lunch or anything. So now I'm at work, like just about to eat just anything because I didn't prepare. So I am going to do some prepping starting today.
Okay.
Gonna get some clothing out for work, and I am going to put my containers together for my smoothies and put my little lunch so that when I get up and I get out that shower, I can just put some clothes on. I can grab my bag and I can make my way out the door and not stand there wondering what is next.
Mm.
That sounds like
I
a
can
very,
relate to
very good
all y'all
goal.
stuff.
Mhm.
It sounds like a very good
Right.
goal. And I think the benefit of group therapy is that you learn so much from one another.
Mhm.
You know, maybe something you hadn't even thought about as something that you needed to do. Somebody else in the group starts talking about it and it really registers with you that, oh, that'd be a
That's
good
why I said
idea for
all of
me as
them.
well.
I can
Mhm.
relate to all of them. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So I think you guys set some very realistic goals, goals that are going to make you push a little bit, but they're not impossible to do. You know, as we get further in these groups, we'll talk about things of a bigger, loftier nature. But for starters, you're taking a moment to make yourself a priority. And that's the number one thing that starts making those other goals easier to reach. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I my thinking process is that when we don't do these things that we're talking about doing this week, it adds to just our stress of life. So then we go to
Mhm.
work and we're frazzled, we're frustrated, we're irritated, we're rushing out the house. We maybe don't have on what we would have rather had on. We didn't get a chance to make our smoothie. We didn't get a chance to pack a good lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're not feeling good about all these things you got going on at home. Um, and so we just carry that and we carry that into the workplace. And then the boss gets on our nerves and the colleagues get on our nerves. And all of that stuff just starts layering on top of each other. So then by the time we get home at the end of the day, the people in our house, they just catch it. The
Mm-hmm.
boyfriend, the husband, the kids, the grandkids, they get the frazzled Sheree. They get the frazzled Amanda,
Mm-hmm.
the frazzled Tracy, the frazzled Sharon, instead of the person that they've come to love and care about, the relaxed, calm, cool, fun, loving person. They get the
Mhm.
person that's stressed out and on edge. So I think starting this week by doing these little small things for yourself, um, it's going to be a big thing. And we'll talk about the next time how that went, how that made you feel, um, and how it made your work after you did that thing. Did you see a difference in how you showed up for work? When I say show up, I mean mentally showed up for work. Did you show up for work feeling a little less stressed, a little more valued as a person because you're starting off by valuing yourself? Um, so we'll address those things. Before we go, I just want to say that I appreciate you guys coming. And although today we didn't do a whole lot of major stuff, we addressed what our issue is. We addressed what we want to see that thing change to, and some small steps towards making it happen. And then we took a little leap with setting a goal to start moving towards that thing.
Mhm.
And as time goes by, we'll keep on building on what we've started. Um, I want to say that showing up for group always says to me that you really want to make a change, because who would give up an hour of their time in the middle of the day on a Sunday if they didn't? So
Mhm.
I appreciate you showing up. And before we go, ask everybody just to close your eyes for a minute. And all I want you to do with your eyes closed is just take a deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and just slowly release it. I'm going to tell you, if your feet aren't flat on the ground, or put your feet flat on the ground. And just take another deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and just slowly release it. Just a little quick grounding when you're finding yourself getting frazzled at work. Just take a moment, take a pause. Nobody has to even know what you're doing, because it takes you a second. Just take a moment, pause, recenter, regroup, reground yourself. Take that deep breath in. It's just a cleansing breath. Hold it for a moment, release it. Do it a couple of times if you need to. Do it 2 or 3 times if you need to. Recenter, get your mind right. Go on and attack the rest of the day. Do you guys have any questions for me?
No, you did great. Mm-mm.
No,
Thank you.
thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you guys for showing up again, and we'll see you next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
righty.
Bye,
Thank
ladies.
you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Have
Have
a
a good
good
day,
Bye.
day.
ladies. You too.